Even though the season is close to starting and Arsenal are yet to finish their transfer business, I think this summer shows a really good idea that Arsenal are still running in the best direction for all parties. In this video, we're going to discuss why Arsenal have been very smart in the transfer window this summer and who I expect them to continue to look at in the last few weeks of this transfer period. So let's get into it. Before we start, I quickly want to let you know about a new channel I've been working on. If any of you are interested in Formula 1 news, I'm going to be doing the same sort of style of these videos over there and doing Formula 1 content. So if you want to go and see that, please subscribe and watch my first two videos. That'll be out when you're watching this. Now, first of all, making this video and the statements that I'm going to come out on this could seem a little bit controversial. A lot of people, I'd say unfairly, have criticised Arsenal in heaps of different ways over the last few years if that comes to selling players or trying to buy certain players. But overall, I think how Arsenal have been going about their business this summer particularly, I think shows the class of a big club and shows that we are continuing to move in the right directions to make this team hopefully an eventual winner once again. Now, this may seem a bit of change in tune what I did a video a few months ago. I did a video about what would be Arsenal's perfect window, where I went through multiple positions and multiple players that we could sign and players that I expect to leave and to get some money for. Now, while I still expect the players to leave and it may creep up to the amount of money I expected on that period, the signings necessarily haven't come yet. Of course, we got Calafiori, who a lot of people didn't necessarily think was a priority, which I think is fair enough. I think it is a really good signing that only adds to the brilliant defense that we have. And obviously a big midfielder was wanted. People like Frankie de Jong, Bruno Guimaraes could have been brilliant for a lot of money, but it doesn't seem like they're very much easy to get this year, and it looks like we could be settling for Merino at the moment. However, I do believe that the window hasn't really been that good this summer. A lot of teams are very much more smarter of when they want to keep players and how much they request from especially Premier League teams that they know have money, and I don't think we had that raw cash that we had last year to go out and buy all these players, considering we had the Raya deal come through and some other things to sort out such as sales. Now, this is a thing I think we've been very patient in this window, and I know I've praised us before for being quick in the market, which I still think can be beneficial, but I like how we're being patient and seeing all the opportunities and players that could develop into signings later on in the market, which we've slowly started to see change over the last few weeks. And overall, I don't think Arsenal need to rush this summer. We are not in a position where we need to make signings, which may surprise people, but I really don't think it should. We've come second the last 2 years. We are close to Man City, and if things had gone our way last year, you know, a couple of results you can't really look in hindsight, we definitely would have won that league. Now, Man City have also not really gone out and made any signings. They signed the winger, which is obviously a bit dodgy through their other teams. They haven't necessarily made any groundbreaking moves, and in fact have sold big players such as Alvarez, who have left for big amounts of money. And it is clear that these big teams are very careful of who they get in from a mentality perspective, but also someone that's going to fit into the system that we want. There's no point of just going out there and spending money on people that are not worth it. And this is something I think big teams do, and I think Arsenal have done brilliant this summer. We agree personal terms with players that we want to sign. However, even if it takes 2 to 3 weeks, we do not care. We're patient with the signings and make good amounts of progress on the amount of money we have to pay. I mean, we got 10 mil taken off the Calafiori deal, which is obviously a good amount. And even with this Eddie Nketiah sell that you're now seeing. Now, you could say this is up to two ways. It could be a ploy by Marseille, could also be Arsenal being a bit forced into a decision because Nketiah wants to leave. But we said no to their deal. Obviously, they went off trying to get another striker. It hasn't worked out. And now we've coming back. We have said we want a little bit more upfront, which seems like it may go over the line finally. And ultimately, that patience, I think, is definitely paying off. And I think for now, to get players that tick boxes such as Merino, which we're still being patient on, and the price is coming down every week, which obviously is another good thing, I think is the main way I want Arsenal to provide in this summer window. Now, we all know that Arsenal could get financial gains from selling Nketiah, and obviously Smith Rowe's already left, and around 60 million euros, that is good money, much better than we've got before, and it proves that we've definitely got better at selling players. Maybe if we can get rid of Nelson for around 15 mil as well, that would show good amount of profit where I think Arsenal may reinvest, but there has to be players that do fit the mold. I don't agree personally with going out there and spending 100 mil on Osimhen if he's not the guy that is going to guarantee you things in the future. I think he has high potential and he's very good. Obviously, there's things that some people don't like about him. His injury record isn't brilliant, but watching Havertz play up front, watching Jesus play up front in the friendly games at least, I'm not sure if that's necessarily a really big issue that you need to spend 100 mil on. If you can get that price down down to around 60 mil, then I think it could really be worth it. But there's always going to be strikers that turn up. There could be good ones that come through next year that we're looking at already and seeing that hopefully they get to that potential that we want. And disappointingly, there's obviously going to be players that we miss out from being patient. It always happens. I mean, even Pedro Neto going to Chelsea, that is a very sudden deal. But our club are never going to pay 60 million euros for him, and I think that is incredible overpriced for someone that obviously has major injury concern. But even then, I think Arsenal only want to spend 50 to 60 mil on players that they actually are guaranteedly sure will start in the team, and they mostly go for attackers as well. There is obviously always going to be good players out there. Victor Gyökeres is another player that could be a potential signing later on in the market, and I still think would be a good player for the club. But if that is to cost around 100 million euros, it is simply not worth it. Let's wait, let's get some stopgap players or players that are really good for the squad right now, and that will tick us over. And I don't think we need that world-class player to win us the league. 2 points is not the difference between a world-class player. 2 points could be the difference of one game, one concentration, and ultimately with better players working in certain areas such as the left-hand field will make our team better overall. So I don't think it's anything to worry about. Now, there's obviously situations we don't know about, such as Zubimendi, us trying to get him for years it felt like, and he rejected us, and now Liverpool come in with a formal offer and it looks like it might happen. But obviously we don't know what is going on behind closed doors, and I can't comment on these things. I can say that Arsenal probably tried their best again, but if they weren't convinced and the player ultimately didn't really want to go, then I can see why they pulled out and didn't bother. Also, the 60 million release clause, paying most of it up front, definitely put us off. And personally, I just think most of the discourse about Arsenal's transfers have been really stupid. Arsenal, people need to be patient with us. Our board are very patient with the signings that we make, and we ultimately have an incredible team. We can afford to wait in the market to see what happens in comparison to teams like Manchester United that obviously need better players right now because they had such a poor season. And no player that we sign is an accident, and sometimes we get market opportunity signings. I think Calafiori might have been one, Merino might be another one, but they're players that we've been looking at for years. The argument that Calafiori was only signed because of his Euro gameplay is stupid. We have clearly been looking at this guy for years, because I don't think we have signed anyone since Edu and Arteta has signed that has just been a spur of the moment signing. They've always been players that they have liked before and looked at years prior. And I know it's frustrating because people want Arsenal to make these big signings that will get us to that next level, and I think sometimes that you can sign other players that do that as well. I don't believe that every signing needs to be a world-class or a star player for the team, and we can have players contribute in many different ways, and I think that's what we're going to get out of Merino and Calafiori. Now, of course, we would want another signing. We needed probably another winger or a wide forward, or at least another striker. I think maybe a wide forward is more important, but I think the market for wingers and strikers is quite poor overall. There's definitely players you can get out there. Rafinha, I mean, you could try and convince Nico Williams if he wants to come, but it seems unlikely. And people like Osimhen and Gyökeres are definitely there if you want to splash the cash. I don't think them transfers will happen with anyone else in the next coming weeks. You could definitely long it out and see how long you can go without putting an offer in, even if the player wants to leave, because then you could potentially get him for cheaper nearer the end of the window with players and teams wanting to force the move a lot more. And this is the sort of thing that I feel like Arsenal are doing really well. We're scouring the market, we're taking our time with transfers, and ultimately we're signing players that are just intelligent players to sign, and we have not rushing and signing players for really expensive unless they're really good, and I really respect that. Every transfer is a risk, but I think Arsenal will make the right signings this summer, and I think how we've been going about things has been perfect so far. So hopefully we can continue it and get the better players in, or even if we don't, I still think we're in a brilliant opportunity to compete this year. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think that Arsenal should be making more moves in the transfer window right now, or do you like calm and collected with being and trying to make these transfers? And obviously the sales, I think with Eddie and Smith Rowe going, guaranteed cash for them too is really good business at the end of the day. If you like this video, please like and subscribe for any more content, and I'll see you in the next one.